Good morning, y'all. It is View from the Pew. It is Friday morning, May the 29th, 2020. We've been talking about the commands of Christ, understanding that part of discipling everybody is teaching others to observe all that Christ has commanded us to do. We're in the middle of a command, which is the command to pray and how to pray. And we're looking at the disciples' prayer, and it's not a abracadabra, hocus pocus, say these words and God will listen type of prayer. We're looking at the heart behind the disciples' prayer. And as we're looking at this, we're looking at the different elements of this prayer. The prayer that begins with our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And here's our next statement. It's Matthew 6:11. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. Prayer must include the reality that we are daily dependent upon God for our spiritual and our physical needs. I believe this is what this implies and it entails. Of course, the idea of daily bread, I think, would have pointed the Jews back to manna that they got in the wilderness as a people, when they would get manna 6 days, and then on the Sabbath, but the day before the Sabbath, they get 2 days worth. So God would even provide he'd provide extra, he'd provide abundance in preparation for the time he would not send any. And there's so many lessons in that. And we know that Jesus, when he was tempted in the wilderness, when he was tempted by Satan to turn the stones into bread, he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So I believe when we look at this part of the disciples' prayer, we're looking at two aspects there. We're looking at a physical aspect. We're dependent upon God daily for our needs. Now, God may give you an abundance, but don't depend on the abundance. You look in Luke 12 at the fool who built bigger barns, and God came to him that night and said, "You fool, this night your soul's required of you." So don't be dependent upon your abundance. It's okay to have abundance, but understand if God gives you abundance, it may be because he's bringing a time where you won't get that daily bread. So there's a physical application of trusting God daily to provide for your physical needs, even if you have money in your checking account, even if you have this great IRA. We've found out through living in this economy that you can have a ton of money in the bank in February and it'll be all gone by April and you didn't do a thing. It's just the way that things work. So be daily dependent upon him for your physical needs, but also be daily dependent upon him for your spiritual needs. And I mentioned that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. There's the word of God. You ought to be daily dependent and daily in the word of God. And also Jesus in John 6 calls himself the bread of life. So you're wanting to be daily dependent upon Jesus. Don't ever expect God to give you marching orders for what you're going to do for 2 or 3 days in advance. He may not give it to you 2 or 3 hours in advance. He wants you daily dependent upon him. And I believe this is part of what Jesus is saying. It's not just daily dependence upon God in prayer, in the heart of prayer for our physical needs. It's daily dependence upon God in prayer for our spiritual needs. So to develop a dependency upon God. Develop a dependency upon God. So I pray God will help us to do that, because that's a part of being a disciple, is being daily dependent upon the Lord for all of our needs. And I pray God gives you a great Friday. I hope you enjoy today. I hope he blesses you today. And I look forward to seeing you and hearing from you Sunday. God bless.